leader in the National Assembly has issued a stern caution to the Kenya Kwanza administration, urging them not to procrastinate on addressing the cost of living, or else they may face unspecified consequences in the upcoming year. TV47's Apollo Kamau recently had a brief interview with the outspoken Ugunja MP, who asserted that there are various approaches to solving a problem. Now we get details of Wandayi's warning that precedes a critical discussion on the National Dialogue Committee report scheduled for when the two houses of Parliament reconvene in February.
At this point in time, would you say Parliament has been captured by the executive in executing its mandate?
The only thing I want to say, really, and having been in Parliament since 2013, is that the independence of Parliament as a whole, and indeed as an institution, is slowly but surely being eroded. Okay? Sometimes I don't want to call it captured by the executive per se, but it is also actually Parliament itself abdicating its responsibility. And why do I say so? You know, under the architecture of the 2010 Constitution, Parliament is supposed to play an oversight role, not only over the executive, but all other arms of government. Okay? And this is irrespective of whether one belongs to a party that has formed the executive or not. But then what you see happening is that members of Parliament who come from the party that has formed government invariably carry themselves as part of the executive. There's this notion, this very misplaced notion, that if you belong, for instance, to Kenya Kwanza or UDA, then you are part and parcel of the executive. They call it being part of government. Okay? Kundani ya serikali. And then, therefore, in the process, they lose focus on their core mandate as members of Parliament, which is actually to provide oversight over the institutions of government, be it the legislature itself, the executive, and indeed the judiciary. Okay? And that the work of oversight is now left to what they are calling opposition, which is also a misnomer, because under the current constitution there is no opposition. We only have majority and minority sides. Be that as it may, in the process, the executive has taken advantage of that lack of clear understanding by members who come from the party that has formed government of their clear mandate. And therefore, the executive has continued to push through its agenda, some very unpopular, if you can recall, for instance, the matter of the Finance Bill 2023. It has been able to use the artificial numbers that Kenya Kwanza commands to push through this legislative agenda, which end up hurting the common person. Okay? So when policies and legislative agenda that are unfriendly to the public, that sometimes appear punitive to the public, get passed through Parliament as a result of the artificial majority that the Kenya Kwanza enjoys, then in the final analysis, it would be correct to say that Parliament is an accomplice in the punishment of the public by these punitive policies and agenda. Okay? So it has been a tough year. But I am happy and proud that as a Azimio coalition, we have done our bit to keep the executive in check. I can tell you, if it was not for us, we would have been in a worse situation now. Okay? As they say in democracies, the majority have their way, whereas the minority have their say. So that say is very important because many a time it flags out very, very, very negative agenda. And that makes the executive and therefore to retreat many a time. And therefore our presence and contribution in Parliament has been of utmost importance.
Do you feel helpless as the opposition given the current setup of the 13th Parliament? And what can we expect from the opposition as we head into 2024?
As members of Parliament from the Azimio coalition, we cannot imagine that we can be helpless when we have the teeth that have been given to us by the public to be able to exercise our mandate from inside the chambers of Parliament. As I've said, it doesn't really matter which direction the vote goes, because invariably the majority will have their say and they will win in any voting situation. But what is more important is not the vote, is the issues that are canvassed before the vote itself is taken. And those issues remain on record permanently. And in the fullness of time, we shall be vindicated, as we have already been vindicated on a number of issues, including the very punitive Finance Act 2023. Recall that the court itself, the High Court itself, has proclaimed the housing levy unconstitutional, vindicating basically our position that we held from day one. Yes. So we are in no way feeling frustrated. No. We are alive to the fact that we may not win the vote in the House, but we have got the opportunity and the chance to express ourselves robustly, yes, fearlessly, yes, and openly, yes, on a number of issues that are of importance to the public, to whom we are responsible.
We are seeing a trend here in Parliament where the executive is bringing bills. And to quote an example of the Attorney General who is being bypassed, are you concerned about this?
We know that the office of the Attorney General, as an institution under the Constitution, should play a very critical role in the governance mechanisms in the country. So any attempt to encroach into the territory of the Attorney General could only be ill-intentioned, could only be as a result of ulterior motives, and we condemn them vigorously. And we hope that in the final analysis, sanity will prevail and every institution will be given their space to execute their respective mandates, including the office of the Attorney General.
There is the issue of the cost of living. What are the specific measures will you push for to make sure this central issue in your agenda is addressed come 2024?
Let me tell you, without thoroughly getting into details, that there are very many ways of skinning a cat. I'm sure you know that. Yes. At this point in time, we just want the public to get to understand that on the matter of the cost of living, we are not going to relent. Okay? And we're going to adopt a lot of and very many different strategies to deal with this question. The public should remain patient with us, even as we know that the matter of the cost of living is a responsibility and the duty of those who are in government, those who are governing the country. But we shall not let the public down. We shall do whatever it takes to ensure that the government is pushed to do what it should do. As a mere coalition, we have made our position very clear. We are supporting the report. we are supporting the National Dialogue Committee report, okay? For the simple reason that there are certain gains, okay, in the report for the public and for the country that we don't wish to discard or throw away with the bathwater, as they say it, okay? We can't afford to throw away the baby with the bathwater. But even as we adopt the report, and hopefully the instruments that are tied to the report, the legislative instruments, we have remained clear in our minds that the question of the cost of living has to be addressed. We did offer our suggestions, very practical suggestions, at the table of dialogue on how the cost of living can be reduced. As it were, the Kenya Kwanza side declined to adopt our very progressive proposals on how to manage the cost of living. And we said, fine, it's your business. You are the ones who are governing. If you don't listen to us, it's up to you. Deal with it and face the consequences that will come in its wake. So we are going to continue to remind Kenya Kwanza that it is their duty to reduce the cost of living, that the Kenyan people can no longer be able to cope with the rising cost of living. The time will come when they shall say enough is enough. Okay? So it is incumbent upon those who are governing to take this matter very, very seriously and deal with it as expeditiously as possible, because it's a ticking time bomb. If left unaddressed, it could consume all of us in the fullness of time. So we remain very vigilant as Azimio, even as we adopt the NADCO report. We remain extremely vigilant. And we do so knowing fully well that throughout the history of this country, at least the post-independence history, the kind of reforms, the kind of democratic gains that we've been able to achieve have been achieved incrementally, okay? Not at one go. So we are alive to that fact. And that's why we want to pick whatever little gains we have in this report, okay? Ring-fence them and move ahead, even as we fight and continue to fight over the outstanding issues, including the very, very vital question of the cost of living.
Has the former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga, and the President, did they converse on the report?
A framework agreement that was guiding the process of the national dialogue was so clear that there could be issues upon which we would agree and others about which we would disagree. And all those issues would be captured in the report. And that is exactly what we have done. And after the report is published, we would first and foremost hand copies to the principals, the two principals, Honorable Raila Odinga and Honorable William Ruto, which we have done. And thereafter, we would then table the report in Parliament, which again we have done. So as things stand, the report is now property of Parliament. Parliament is going to be able to deal with it in its wisdom. We are hopeful, of course, that after the debate, the report shall be adopted, because there's no contestation in terms of what is in the report from both sides. And in any case, it's a negotiated document. Yes, and it has therefore to be approved as is, without any form of amendment.
So there hasn't, or there has never been any engagement between the two leaders after you produced the report as the National Dialogue Committee?
It is not within my province to be able to talk about any engagement between Raila Odinga and William Ruto, if at all.